One of the easiest ways to kind of prioritize what you want to focus on is looking at what are the cheapest things I can do that'll have the biggest impact. I think that's a really good formula for prioritizing, because you can go through those mapping exercises and get surveys and all of this data back, and then you're like, okay, where do I start? There's just a lot of things out there. So I love that filter of biggest impact, smallest effort, smallest dollar amount. And as you start to look at those things, all of a sudden it becomes very clear which things kind of end up at the top of that priority list.
You're listening to episode 177 of the Fitness Business Podcast. We'd like to thank this month's premier podcast partner, MyZone, the wearable technology that enhances paid programming and drives customer engagement. Hi everyone, welcome along and thanks for joining me. Those of you who are long-time listeners of the show may remember our interview back in 2016 with Chuck Runyon, the co-founder of Anytime Fitness. He came on to chat to us about how to build a world-class culture in your club. Now, I'm sure that many of you will know that Anytime Fitness is the world's largest and fastest growing fitness franchise. In fact, they serve 3 million members at gyms located in 30 countries on 5 continents. So when it came to speaking to an expert on understanding customers and using customer insights to inform your business, we found the perfect person to chat to, their brand president, Stacy Anderson. Stacy's top priority is leading the evolution of Anytime Fitness from its 24/7 convenience model to a more personalized coaching approach, featuring new digital technologies and a broader selection of group training programs. During the show with Stacy this week, we chat about methods to collect insights around your customer needs. We chat about how to use customer insights in your business, how to communicate what your business delivers, and she shares some tips for creating an innovative culture in your business. We're about to transition into the show, but first I want to thank this month's premier podcast partner. MyZone is a wearable technology platform that leverages personal goal setting, gamification, and social platforms to motivate your members. To find out more, go to myzone.org or check out the video on our new partners page at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. Just a quick note about this week's interview. I want to give a shout out to our amazing audio engineer, Harper. We had a few little audio issues at the start and at the end of the interview. The middle was completely fine. Harper worked tirelessly to smooth things out, so you'll hear a few highs and lows, but please don't tune out. I promise you it gets better very quickly. So a big thank you to Harper for working your magic. Let's transition now to my interview with Stacy Anderson. Stacy, welcome along. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here, Chantal.
Now, let's get started with our main interview now. So talk to us about a few methods that we can use to collect insights around our customer needs.
Well, before you kind of dive into just collecting the insights, you have to start a little bit with who is your consumer? Who is your customer, your target? So customers in any market can be broken down into segments or buckets of similarities. So big companies pay big money for sophisticated segmentation studies, but for a small business, I'm a fan of kind of making an informed hypothesis. Think about the people who shop you. What are their different groups? In fitness, there are segments like fitness enthusiasts, people that really have adopted a fitness lifestyle. You have do-it-yourselfers, kind of that person that puts on their earbuds and is in your gym, but really doesn't make eye contact with anyone. You have other people that need more support and help. Maybe they're new to the gym area and they need motivation and education. So think about the different groups of people that you see in your business. And once you kind of have those groups, think about who is my ideal customer? Who am I best set up to serve? Who spends the most money with me? Who is the competition serving really well today? And who could I serve better? And once you kind of identify 1 or 2 segments that you think, gosh, these are really my people, the people that I'm kind of built to serve, then you start to go, okay, how do I dig up their needs? Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So once you kind of have those segments identified, I typically make a list of what I think their needs are, and then I try to validate or disprove those assumptions. So I know this is a really novel idea, but like find people and talk to them, right? Find people in your community, in your membership, your family. My family probably doesn't love Christmas dinner with me because I'm asking them all about their fitness and working out schedules and what's motivating them those days and what they're trying. But ask them about how they feel. How do they feel about the fitness industry? How do they feel about exercise? What have they tried? What did they like? What did they wish they had? With a bit of information, you can really create like a really robust survey that you can send out and put a little bit more quantifiable data behind. So I love to talk to people, and that can be great, but people will also only tell you so much. And we live in an age where we're just overwhelmed with data. And they'll tell you not just what people think, but what they actually do. So tools and lots of free tools are out there, like Google Analytics on your website will tell you how long people are on your site, what they're actually clicking, what are they interested in. You can see in your social media metrics, what content they like to share. I think here at Anytime, a post on apple cider vinegar done 3 years ago is still our most successful post. The idea is that apple cider vinegar can cure just about any health ailment. So you kind of find trends there and you see what people are interested in. And if that feedback forums like Net Promoter Score or any of those types of things, I always say you got to pay special attention to your detractors, people that are unhappy with your service. They're kind of your biggest gift. They aren't worried really about sparing your feelings, so it can be hard to kind of receive sometimes. But they will absolutely tell you where you have opportunities to improve. Another thing that we're doing here at Anytime Fitness lately, we've been doing a lot of this, is really customer journey mapping. This is a great thing to do when you have an existing business. It's kind of taking a step back and laying out the journey that your customer goes on from the minute that they discover your gym or your club to the moment they come in to sign up or do a trial. What do all the steps in that process start to look like? And if you can really map out what your process looks like, all right, what would this person feel like as they're looking on the internet for a gym to join or a club to join? Are they scared? Are they intimidated? Okay, when they walk in, now I'm selling them PT. Oh gosh, what do they need to hear from me? What do they need to feel? And really mapping out that the feelings of your prospect or your member along that customer journey can give you really great insights where you can see, oh gosh, I'm poking them with calipers at this phase in their journey with us where they're probably scared and intimidated. That might not be the best experience to deliver those folks. And so when you map out a person's feelings along the process of what you're doing in your gym, where you see the gaps where somebody might be less than delighted at a moment, you can really adapt your processes and your operations to use those insights to drive a much better experience for them. It's a really fascinating exercise to do not only by yourself, but with a team at your club.
I love that concept, Stacy. And let me ask you this. How frequently, once we've mapped out that journey, how frequently would you suggest that we revisit it? Because I guess, the experience is changing on a frequent basis. So how often should we revisit that?
Yeah, we try to do it at least once a year because this industry is just changing so quickly. It's easy for a year to go by quickly and all of a sudden new devices and new technology are out there. And you start to look at those moments and say, gosh, did I solve some of those problems with some of the technology out there? For example, body scanners, body composition scanners are a huge trend right now in the industry. And where you look at kind of old school personal training practices, this can really take some of the intimidation out of some of those steps. So as you look at that customer journey, you can also look at the technology and the new developments in the industry and see, gosh, where can I solve customer problems with new things that have arisen in the industry?
You just touched on that new technology and embracing that. So let's dive into that a little bit further, because once we've collected all of those insights and we've got that data on hand, what are some different ways or what should we consider about using those insights in our business?
I think one of the easiest ways to kind of prioritize what you want to focus on is looking at what are the cheapest things I can do that'll have the biggest impact. I think that's a really good formula for prioritizing because you can go through those mapping exercises and get surveys and all of this data back. And then you're like, okay, where do I start? There's just a lot of things out there. So I love that filter of biggest impact, smallest effort, smallest dollar amount. And as you start to look at those things, all of a sudden it becomes very clear which things kind of end up at the top of that priority list. What can we do simply, quickly, easily, doesn't cost us a lot of money, but also will have the biggest impact for us.
Can you share any examples with us of something that you have learned or something that you have implemented along those lines?
Yeah, I think our sign-up process, for example, in a lot of the clubs years ago, it was a very long paper. It was almost like filling out a mortgage. You had 13 pages of disclaimers and liability forms and things that you had to sign in order to become a gym member. And one of the simplest things that we created was just a quick iPad sign-up process that really took that time from, a 60-minute sign-up process for a customer who was like, gosh, I really need to get in and out. My kids might be sitting in my car, down to a less than a 5-minute process for somebody that came in. So that's had some development associated with it. That did take some time, but it was just such a quick impact. And one of the biggest pain points for our customers was, gosh, I don't have 60 minutes to stand around and wait to sign up for this gym. I want to get in and out.
That is such a great example. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm pretty sure a lot of other gym owners and managers out there are probably appreciating that example because they're probably in the same boat or have been in the same boat through that sign-up process. So, with consumer needs constantly changing, how do you actually ensure that the business delivers what your customers need?
Yeah, it's really a cycle of constant innovation. We have constant feedback out there, not only with our members and our prospects, but also with our franchisees. So we are constantly surveying and asking people, how are we doing? So the things that we're very intent on positioning ourselves around for us right now, obviously convenience is in our name, but we are also trying to build our personal training business and our coaching services. And as we do that, we ask those questions every month of consumers and prospects. When you think of Anytime Fitness, do you think of this? And you start to see in that data whether or not you're making progress to the things you actually want to make progress towards. It's hard to build new equities and new value in spaces you're not traditionally known for, and it gives you a really good read on whether or not your efforts are having an impact or not. Same thing with our franchisees. If our franchisees don't know who we stand for, what we stand for, then we probably have no hope of having our members get there. So they're kind of our first line of defense and attack, I guess, when you think about implementing new projects or new services or new positioning. So finding those attributes that you really want to stand for and constantly getting feedback and watching the trend over time, see if you're making progress is just super important. It's that constant cycle of test, measure, repeat. You constantly have to be doing it.
Stacey, in that example that you just gave, what do you think of, when you think of Anytime Fitness? Do you ask that to, you said your franchisees and your customers, do you also ask that to prospects?
Absolutely. And it's probably more important what our prospects think in terms of acquisition for us as well. So we always say the dirty secret of Anytime Fitness is that when you're a member, you know how great it is and you know the sense of community because you've felt it and you see the people that run those clubs and you really understand how they're there to help and support and really care about your results and moving you into a better health stage in your life. But a lot of our prospects, because we don't have huge marketing dollars, might not know that. And so we're finding new ways through digital programs and sponsorships and partnerships and things like that to make sure that that story is getting told beyond our four walls. And so absolutely, we care an immense amount about what our prospects think for us because frankly, that's the lifeblood of, the next generation of our members. So yep, we're constantly talking, and we talk to our competitors, members as well, because we want to understand what people like about the competitors and how we are positioned against them in our prospects' minds. So absolutely, we're talking to prospects all the time.
Well, that's the perfect segue to my next question, Stacey, because you mentioned there that you're finding new digital platforms and ways to communicate that message. And I think that's a big thing that, how do we actually articulate to the market when our business is listening to our customers and is matching the consumer needs? So are there any examples that you can give us specifically on the ways that you communicate that, be it from a digital standpoint or a more traditional one?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, right now, like I said, our culture and our community is probably one of our biggest strengths. And the stories of people sharing their experiences with us on social media. We just had a fantastic story the other day of it was actually one of our managers in our clubs when she took a social media video of herself in a closet because somebody had made a disparaging remark about her weight and working in a gym. And she said, I want you to know that this is the place you can come for help, and we'll never make you feel less than anybody else in here. And that's what Anytime Fitness stands for. And, the tears are in her eyes, and everybody I know that has watched this 5-minute video, just your heart pours out to her. I'm like, that is where the heart of the brand is. And so leveraging those opportunities to take these authentic, really cool moments that are happening every day in our gym and spreading the word through social media. Frankly, that just went on fire. Everybody shared it and a lot of news outlets picked it up. But there's a million of those stories. We've got over, 3,000 clubs, and in doing that, we have nearly 3 million members around the globe in those stories. Social media just gives you such a great opportunity to get those stories out from the individual club and, frankly, global. So we're doing a lot more with social media and just really getting those stories out of our club and out.
For Anytime Fitness, Stacy, which social media platforms do you use primarily?
Yeah, we use Facebook quite a bit around here just because of the pure reach of it. Instagram is fantastic, but you have to have a slightly different approach on Instagram. It's such a visual, obviously, format. So we've got a lot of folks that like to post selfies in our gyms too. So it really become almost like a self-regulated community, but we created an Anytime community on Instagram as well. And then behind the scenes, we're using a lot of tools. We use a tool called Moment Feed to help our franchisees really manage and measure their performance on social media. And we have integrations with businesses like HubSpot that help us pull in the data from those social media tools from our website and really help us create a nice, robust picture of who our customers are, what content they're clicking on, and when we have a prospect that's coming to us that we'd mark as like a hot lead because they've interacted with us in a lot of our platforms. So there's lots of technology behind the curtain, but Facebook, Instagram are really the two that allow marketing people to really reach out to their consumers and create community.
You just mentioned a system in there. I think you called it Moment Feed. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And
Yep.
Is that exclusive to Anytime Fitness, or is that a platform that's available to anyone?
That's a platform that's available to anyone, and I believe they have global capabilities. I'm pretty sure some of our clubs in the UK are using them as well. So, they're a media platform that really allows you to schedule out your posts, trigger them where you, when you want them to go, and really get the measurements and understand what's performing well for you.
So it's kind of like a co-schedule or a Hootsuite, but it's got the analytics attached to it.
Yes, and it works across multiple platforms. So, yep.
Interesting. Okay, I know that some of you will be interested in checking that out, so I'll make sure that I grab a link and we'll include that in the show notes for today. Now, Stacey, we finish off each of our shows with Fitbispiration, and I'm hoping you can share with us 3 tips for creating an innovative culture in your business.
Sure. It's funny because I think everybody wants an innovative culture. And if you have an entrepreneur like I do as your founder, it's almost hard to stop the innovation. There's so much innovation. Entrepreneurs just inherently by nature are never satisfied and constantly are pushing the boundaries. So that always helps. But most companies that I've been at, especially before this, say they value it, but they really struggle to achieve it. And some of the thoughts for how you really move that forward when it is a struggle, when you're, fighting the day-to-day whirlwind of your business are first, reward and create incentives for innovation at your company, either through compensation, prizes, bonus structures, whatever that is. Demonstrate that you actually value innovation and reward your employees for it one way or the other. Second point is to invest in innovation. A lot of companies say they want innovation, but they don't necessarily put the money towards it. So finding a leader, maybe even a partner firm who can help drive the innovative thinking with freedom from kind of the barriers of the day-to-day business, put a % of your profit towards it. When I was the marketing officer here, we put 10% of our marketing budget towards trying new things because you don't know what's out there until you try it. And I always thought 10% of your budget going towards learning and even trying and failing isn't that big of a risk. So put money towards it to actually invest in it makes it happen. And finally, dedicate time to it. A lot of companies, I know Google does this. 3M here in the States is known for dedicating 15% of an employee's time to innovation. I came from a company named Best Buy. they also had a team that spent a few months dedicating time and of some of their top staff to innovation. So Google does something similar. Like I said, 3M does something similar, but really dedicating time to think about it. Innovation doesn't happen because you want it to. Innovation happens because you create it in your organization.
Stacy, I just want to say thank you because first and foremost, you have energized me for my day ahead. You have an incredible energy, and
thank you.
It really is such an honor to have you on the show. You have so much responsibility. You have a very big role, and we really are grateful on behalf of all of the listeners of the show. We're so grateful for your time and for you coming on and sharing your experience with all of us. So thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thank you so much. It was a real pleasure. Thank you.
Are you interested in increasing your center's income and your trainer's income from small group training? Tribe Team Training is the new way to get more members engaged in small group training and paying extra. Click the Tribe Team Training link in the show notes or go to tribeteamtraining.com.au/podcast for your free formula to see how much income you can make from small group training.
Precore Quickfire 5.
This week's Precore Quickfire 5 guest is the Chief Transformation Officer of the Crankset Group, Chuck Blakeman. Chuck, welcome and thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thanks, Chantel. It's great to be with you.
Let's get straight into our Precore Quickfire 5. Tell everyone, why do you do what you do?
It's interesting. I'm a serial entrepreneur, left-handed, right-brained, ADHD, dyslexic, and my life vision is to do what others can't or won't do. Why do what others can and will do when there's so much that others won't or can't do? And so that's burned for me for a few decades. And my life vision is to live well by doing good. So we do what we do because I enjoy being involved in the lives of small business owners and transforming their lives and their businesses. And it's just a lot of fun.
And what's one ritual that helps you become better at what you do?
That's a great question. One ritual that helps me get better at what I'm doing is always focusing on the one big thing. What is the one big thing? Each week, I invest an hour, minimum of an hour, asking myself, what is the one or two or three things I need to do this week in order to be in a different place next year?
That's a great one. And tell us, what's one app or system that you use to stay in control of your workload?
Wow, there's so many of them. I don't know where to start, but we use Slack a lot. Probably in the last few years, we've gotten to where we use Slack to replace meetings and to augment meetings and to augment discussions. And so that's become a real power force for us.
Great one. And what's one book, podcast, or blog that you'd recommend and why?
Well, I like a recent book, 4, 5, 6 years old by David Marquette. It's called Turn the Ship Around. Small little book. I like small books. Being ADHD, I love small books because then I can say I read a book. And I like that one, Chantel, because it illustrates, even though I don't think this was necessarily his intention, it illustrates one of the core things we're going to talk about today, distributed decision-making, and the idea that when you invite everyone to be a leader and you have no managers, you have no followers, everyone's a leader, everything changes. It's a dramatic story of turning a submarine around in 1 year from the worst-rated submarine in the U.S. Navy to the best-rated submarine in the U.S. Navy with one simple principle, leader, leader. There are no more followers here. I'm not going to tell you what to do. You're going to tell me what you think ought to be done. And all I'm going to do is ask you questions until we're happy that you've got a good idea. So on that one thing, he took the same 134 people that had made the ship the worst and turned it into the best.
Wow, I'm absolutely intrigued to check out that book now. So everyone will grab a link for that book and make sure that we put it in today's show notes. Now, one more question for you, Chuck, and you briefly touched on it then. Give us a really brief overview of what we're going to be talking about during your main interview.
We're going to talk about rehumanizing the workplace by giving everyone their brain back. Maybe I'll just let that hang.
I think we'll leave it as that, shan't we? We'll keep everyone intrigued for next week. So thank you so much for joining us for the Precore Quickfire 5, and I look forward to chatting to you next week. Before we finish off today, a reminder that all the resources, the links, and a transcript for today's show can all be found at fitnessbusinesspodcast.com. Thank you to our foundation partner, Active Management. They have an amazing gift for you. Their number one selling checklist is yours for free, and it will turn your About Us page on your website into a lead generating page. All you need to do is go to fitnessbusinesspodcast.com/active for your free download. Thank you for joining me for another week of the show. I'll see you next week, and remember, what you leave behind is not what's engraved in stone monuments, but what is woven into the lives of others.